Okay, folks, what I'm getting excited about with my What's the Meaning of Life presentation is all kinds of things. It's a kind of 23-year journey for me since I retrained as a career guidance practitioner back in the mid-1990s, when I would argue I found my calling, and I've been evangelizing about it ever since. So that was at the age of 32 that I discovered my calling, but I think a big part of the story really goes way, way back, probably into my early to mid-teens when I started working, and I found so many jobs that weren't meant for me and didn't really provide much meaning for me, and they were all grist for the mill because, more or less by process of elimination, 32 years later, well, 16 if you start the journey at 16, in 16 years I had 35 jobs, so I am very much qualified to talk about what it feels like not to have a sense of purpose in our life. And I really did think I had a sense of purpose working as a assistant professional golfer at golf clubs. I joined the Royal Marine Commandos at 17. I worked in retail management for organisations like Lacoste and Ton sur Ton, working in the menswear department of a great big third largest department store in the UK in Alders of Croydon, and managing a store in Regent Street for a short period of time in central London. All kinds of things, all kinds of jobs, all kinds of experiences. And then I would argue I kind of had this amazing epiphany and found my calling, and that's what this is all about. So it's a kind of a before and after, and what my life work has ended up being. So here we are. So without further ado, what I'm really broadcasting today is about the power of self-inventory. I like the fact that it's got self-invent and self-inventor kind of implied in those two words. And chakras, so I talk about the head chakra, heart chakra and gut chakra. And what I'm trying to do here is draw upon a little bit of Eastern philosophy and inculcate that into my own thinking, and we'll talk more about that as the presentation goes on. So in following on from the previous slide about self-inventory and inventing ourselves, I love this visual metaphor, which is the gem case of a CD I've got for Bobby Womack's final album, which was The Bravest Man in the Universe, which is his final album before he died, which he made with Damon Albarn, which is one of my favourites. And this is a kind of a bit of a reveal, and I'm going to show you how it works.
He's trying to say a little more. If the singer tries to find out what's happening in life, it gives him a better insight on telling the story of the song he's trying to sing. Watching from a distant constellation.
So what that's basically trying to demonstrate, not sure how successfully, is that there's a kind of a great reveal in this symbology of this design here, which I just think if you look at the various nooks and crannies on the page there, imagination and creation, the sphere of potential, body, soul, spirit, there's so many different dimensions on that slide, which I just think establishes so beautifully what we're trying to achieve when we look at the beginnings of self-inventory. So I hope it works for you too. So I'm very much the holist, and in my first book, which I published back in 2012, I eventually got around to kind of copywriting my idea for the well-being sphere. So as a holist, both spiritually and in terms of psychosocial well-being, I believe that there are 8 core elements to a person's well-being, and surprisingly for many people I include work, the sense of vocational fulfillment, as being a very integral part of what a human being does for their livelihood, and how it influences so many different departments and our potential for happiness in our life, hence I include that slide here. So anybody who knows me or who might have worked with me in the past will know I've been banging on about the potential thieving triangle for about 18 years since I first created it, because on the basis of 5 years consulting into large blue chip and global organizations, I found that 90% of the people I meet are either in the wrong job or not at all engaged by their work, and that leads to all kinds of chaos and internal dynamics in the organization. And I've met a number of people who've got quite resentful for this model, people who might not go to work to live, people who basically gain their values or have their values met outside of the workplace, which is completely fair enough. I'm not judging those people at all. And in many ways, our safekeeping self, the people who basically look after the history and legacy and heritage of the organization, they do a great job, and I'm not actually criticizing them in any way. Some people are criticizable in that population though, and they are the people who haven't really cared too much about switching themselves on to a sense of meaningfulness and sense of purpose, and making a really positive contribution through the power that they have innately within them. So this is where I meet people from first off. I meet people either in reactive mode or proactive mode. So you might argue that that small population at the bottom of the potential thieving triangle are the proactive 10%, who are generators, transmitters, and they're resonating, positively charged, they're on the ascent. And then maybe the flip side of that is that as reactive people, life is happening to them. They are not on the front foot, they are maybe off balance on the back foot, and not feeling as if they are delivering their potential, self-actualizing, or deriving any real sense of meaning from their work or life. So in terms of taking self-inventory, obviously we're looking at a person's personal attributes, and these might include some of the following areas: so skills, interests, strengths, behaviors, capabilities, experience and knowledge accrued over time, what I call the imperative, which is the moment, the trigger point where a person understands their own mastery, what they're an authority on, what their craft is, and the HR professionals and hiring managers might refer to those terms as a person's competency. We can discuss that later in the film. Our values are integral to who we are as a person and why we do or do not derive meaning from our work. Areas such as motivations, our personality traits, and our attitude. All these things combine together in the formation of value and contributing to the bottom line, but also contributing value to our community. So in this slide, I'm going to help you answer the toughest question of all, which I refer to frequently, which is, tell me about yourself. Because so many people go for an interview having not really made a career decision nor prepared their self-inventory, so they're not really very much aware of what they're going to say to this really, really gigantic question. Because what I find is that people who can answer it can have a meaningful conversation, a meaningful relationship with a person they meet in the bathroom mirror every morning. It's almost like a precursor to self-love. And I know many people grew up thinking that was a real kinky thing to say, but the older I get, the more hopefully wise I become, and I know that without self-love we can't really expect anybody else to buy into us at all. So it's a prerequisite. And where we start is we do the self-inventory, and we look at our achievement stories in life, and we look at the challenges, the actions and the results. We can identify things like where our skills lie and what we've used our skills to achieve. From there we can develop our CV stroke resume, as they would call it in America, and then the thing which is often referred to as the elevator pitch, which is a a 2 to 3 minute infomercial on just in case you meet somebody in the elevator and you think, gosh, they're having a conversation, I'm looking to hire somebody just like me. If only I had prepared my script beforehand, because you just never know when that opportunity is going to knock on your door. So in terms of triggering your imperative, this is a very, very important part of the process. It's the keystone in you understanding where you're going in your life and why people need to buy into you. So here we have my career dovetail formula, which I created back in 1996, working in schools and colleges in Staines and Egham in Surrey and Middlesex. What I found then was, much like myself, the young people I was working with, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, they didn't really have any compendium of terms with which to self-understand. They did not have the language of self, so that when they were kind of being asked what they were good at, they very rarely had a kind of pre-prepared list of vocabulary that would help them in that process. And it's incredibly difficult to give this task to anybody in terms of the self-inventory. And I'm working with executive coaching clients to this day who balk at the prospect of doing the introspection and learning about themselves, and then taking what they learned and dovetailing that into the world of work out there and in the labour market. So it's a very important metaphor, and I think it works well. So my breakthrough moment, why I'm really excited and kind of enthusiastic about this transition and this evolution of the career dovetail formula, is it's now evolved into a process where I believe it melts away the semantic fog that keeps so many people locked in unfulfilling work. And on a wider kind of on the wider landscape of the world of work and society at large, it's got so much to contribute in terms of sustainability. You know, for me, there's no greater sadness than a person taking their potential untapped and locked inside of themselves, and at the end of their life never having fulfilled that potential and maximized that potential, and this kind of sense of never having really achieved what they have innate within them. So what does this slide say? Here's my diamond symbol from which emanates the words work aesthetics, beauty through labour. And what have we got here? So our philosophy, I'm hoping to launch a movement called work aesthetics. So in the same way we've had the Shaker movement, the Art Nouveau movement, the Bauhaus movement, all of these various movements, I think we're long overdue in 2020. The launching of a new movement where people celebrate their gift, their talent that they have to contribute to society. So the people who do this are called work aesthetes. They're the beauty athletes who contribute good to society. And the field within which they operate is work aesthetics. So I'm saying here, in pursuit of beauty in a more sustainable world, work aesthetics is the practice of melding love, talent, capability, values, and attitude together with the vision, design, devotion, mechanics, raw material, and the aesthetic into a delight-filled fusion of fabric, function, form, and flow. That's an excerpt from my book, which I'm actually quite proud of because it says it all. And just have a think about how you're contributing your work aesthetics to society would generate good, not just for you, but for society as a whole. And my God, we need society to be more whole than it is right now. So in my book, I created this idea, a couple of big ideas, I think. One is work aesthetics, which is the ability for a person to generate charisma through great work and being dovetailed into their perfect work. And alongside that is this notion of vocationally generated energy, which I call Vojo. So Austin Powers had his mojo, and my clients who I work with end up with Vojo. So the purpose triangles is my major accomplishment in life, and it literally has been a life work for me. It's evolving into a 3-dimensional model or even a 4-dimensional model, but as it stands, it's not quite yet the purpose pyramid, but the purpose triangles as it stands is a formulaic, repeatable methodology for people to tune in to their imperative. So this is the real key to unlocking and melting away the semantic fog, unlocking potential, generating forward momentum in a life, and really coming up with what your imperative is, where you want to go every day when you wake up for the remainder of your life, what you're going to invest your time, effort, money, dreams and everything into. And I think I've probably said enough. So with this slide, beings of frequency, this is so important to me, and it's an almost incredibly difficult summing up to achieve. It's so imperceptible because there's a difference between living on purpose, marshalling all of your attributes and qualities and skills and talents and gifts and pointing them towards what you want to do with your life. And in generating this kind of charisma, there's a lot of love involved in that. And hence I kind of draw this correlation with the 3 hearts in alignment. So we've got our purpose and destiny, passion and delight, and perseverance and devotion, and they each feed off each other. And this is the subtlety, that if we can fuel our career progression and our work life with the desire to contribute good to society, it presupposes that first we will have done the self-inventory and we will have fallen in love with this person here. Even though that's kind of beaten out of us by society, it's really painfully excruciating to experience how the vast majority of people who I meet have had that same experience as I have had in my life. And the world kind of almost discriminates against people who are profoundly purposeful in their life. We're geared up to favour people who are kind of seizing the mundanity and the kind of the humdrum of life. That's kind of the expectation, that we're not here to have a great life and a great career and experience the joy of purposeful work. So that's what this slide's about. There's so much more to it. I'm not really going to be able to cover it off in one slide. You can see there's probably lots of difference in me. This is a few weeks after I started recording this presentation, and as I think more deeply about it, I don't want to do you a disservice and leave this slide out, so it's a kind of late edition. So here is a slide where what I'm seeking to describe here is that I've worked with, or kind of understudied, some of the world's kind of most prolific thinkers in the field of vocational guidance, career guidance. And what I'm doing here is kind of, there's a bit of a distillation here with some of these tools, but I found my way latterly, following my first career guidance interview myself back in 1995, January 1995. This transformative and inspirational coach, career development, adult career development advisor called Mike put me on a bit of software called Adult Directions, and 20 minutes later he came at me with a report which said, weighted out of 198% careers advisor. And we might talk about that another time, but basically that triggered my detective work into whether or not I should become a careers advisor or a career guidance practitioner, to give it a correct name. And that led to me doing a 2-year postgrad myself. So subsequently, I met with this amazing guy, Richard Nelson Bowles, or Dick Bowles. He wrote this book first time round in about 1967. You can see on the back of there's a whole pile of books that he's produced every year subsequently. I have my own small stack of his books because he rewrites it every year. So there's a few that I have here which I use with my clients, and he introduced me to such tools as you can see there as the values card sort produced by a pal of his called Richard Nodell. And just next to that you can see the self-directed search, which is produced by another friend of his, in his network at least, who's a guy called John Holland, who had a remarkable career. I think he's started out helping to disband the US Army and help GIs leave the army and find work, and he happened upon this code which became his lifelong study. Then you've got career anchors down the middle there. I've actually had a recent exchange. Edgar Schein is probably now in his 90s, but he produced this. His PhD led to his creation of the career anchors, which is a fascinating insight into why people work, what's really important to them. The MBTI stands for the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. I use another version of that called the Type Dynamics Indicator through a business called Team Focus. Roy Childs is the creator of that psychometric, which is extraordinarily and profoundly enlightening tool to help people understand their personality type and the implications of that on the workplace, on their career choice. And then next to that you've got Do What You Are, which again builds upon the notion of psychometrics. So these are just examples of some of the tools available to me in my toolkit, which has been distilled over the last 23 years and continues to be distilled. But I just wanted to indicate to you that give you some pointers if you want to go off and do this yourself. Of course, that's an option you have. And alternatively, if you want to add some layers to that, then developing your own career narrative under the guidance of an experienced coach can be incredibly powerful, because working with a thinking partner, especially during times of change like redundancy, can be incredibly uplifting and energizing, and acts as a real antidote to that sensation of having the rug pulled out from underneath us and this feeling of isolation, because very few people actually seek their next career step proactively. It's nearly always reactively, as I said in that slide earlier in the presentation. And this slide's the clincher. This is the one where we really talk about triggering purpose, and this is where I've aligned all of the various ingredients in my it used to be career coaching. It's grown into and evolved into purpose coaching. I do executive coaching. I work with young people who are making really pivotal decisions in their middle to late teens, early 20s. I work with women returners and people who may have had to take a career gap for whatever reason, people who are really feeling disenfranchised and unhappy about their work. And more as we step towards the new normal in a post-pandemic landscape, this is about survival, really. And I think people are equipped with, forearmed with their shield of purpose, their spear of purpose, if you want to call it that. They're the ones who are really going to be able to generate traction in this increasingly competitive landscape that we're moving towards. So I understand this is going to be a longer slide than my previous slides. But what it's saying is that between 0 and 5, we assimilate and aggregate and develop a large part of our personality and our language. And then between the years of 16 and 14, as we step through our childhood, and at 14, in those childhood years, we start to learn, and we start to develop tastes for learning. Our learning style, our work preferences start to evolve and develop. Then on the cusp of youthhood at 14, we could start starting to think about where our aptitudes lie, and whether we're an artist, a scientist, we love numbers, we love words, we love history, geography, whatever the subjects are that we're being taught in school. We start developing some tastes for those things. And then when we start taking stock farther down the road, so we've been on this youthhood bridge to adulthood, we start taking ownership, and not very many people do this task. What I find is I often ask people, when did they grow up, and they don't know. And I've had people in their 40s and 50s have said, you know what, I'm not sure if I ever did. And this happened to me as well. You know, my life was no straightforward voyage to the other side and of clarity. But when I did achieve it, it was transformational. So I've got this before and after, black and white situation going on, which I can draw upon in describing this model. Now, when I worked out the formula, so a skill plus an interest gives you a strength plus a behavior gives you a capability, I didn't really have any grammatical language or laws attached to that, but now I do. This has been my Eureka moment. I now know, possibly the first person in the world to break this code. And then I looked up, I could get everything down into a single word. I could get skills into a single word. Skills are easy, they're verbs. But when I came to competency, which you'll notice is the third part of the journey along that bottom row, I couldn't get it down to a single word. Competencies just aren't described in one word, but they could be a verb and a knowledge. So when we have interests in school, our interests evolve and grow as we master the subject into a knowledge. It's a noun. So when I looked up what is a 2-word sentence in the Oxford English Dictionary, it's actually called an imperative sentence, which is just like a dream ticket. It was like, hallelujah, how good is this? Because an imperative is certitude. So we understand what our authority is. We understand what we have mastered. So we could be a stonemason and we've mastered shaping stone. We could be a neurosurgeon and we could be capable of suturing 2 tiny brain capillaries together as a leak-free suture line. We have incredible dexterity. We could be a hairdresser and we could have mastered the art of styling hair. There are all kinds of things that we could master. And what happens when we've achieved that is we trigger our purpose. We change on a molecular level, I would argue. I can take anybody on this in terms of the argument of taking ownership of our life. But the before and after is the key. It's just so incredible to see somebody all of a sudden, they've got a sense of conviction. They've changed their biochemistry almost. They're attractive. They're exuding vocationally generated energy. And this is where the epiphany happens. This is why I'm so excited, enthusiastic about my work and really pushing the message out there. I've got something to transmit to the world, which is my imperative, is to help more and more people turn themselves on to their imperative. So that's what I'm getting excited about in this presentation. So my biggest news really is the fact that I've got a card game and a book coming out. So the card game is in prototype stage, just off to the printers with there are going to be 1,000 cards in the deck, which will help you codify the meaning of your life and develop a sense of purpose. The book is a bit more ambitious, 10 or 12 chapters, which I'm just completing at the moment, but it's hopefully going to be in ready for the end of the year. And it helps you answer the biggest questions of all, which is, why am I here and what am I to do? Watch this space. So thanks for watching. Life is one giant conundrum, and I'm here to help you solve it. I think it's incredibly difficult to do this kind of thing by yourself. It's part of life's great tapestry and the awe of making our way through this journey, this magnificent journey, that we're kind of not necessarily supposed to be able to answer some of these questions by ourselves. So that's why I've created the Career Dovetail formula, the purpose triangles and the purpose pyramid. And I think it's poised really nicely in terms of time as we step towards this new normal. It gives us an extra sense of resilience that we've turned ourselves on to what our purpose is in life. And finally, you'll notice there I've got this the idea for the outplacement club. 15 years ago, I used to make a really good living out of delivering outplacement consultancy, which is a fancy way of describing redundancy counselling. And very few organisations in this day and age offer people redundancy support as they go through career transition and leave a job and step towards the uncertainty, the kind of the terrifying uncertainty of potential unemployment. So the idea with the Outplacement Club is that you all get together online. We could do it as a Zoom call. There are all kinds of different ways of joining in and collaborating, and I will lead those sessions in helping you with your self-marketing. I need to help you grapple with the inevitability of change in today's labour market. That's a big ask. Develop your networking, look at your self-marketing materials, how to build a CV, how to design your interview script before you need it. All kinds of positive benefits to collaborating in this way. So please do get in touch if you're interested to know a little bit more about that as well. Good luck. Thank you for watching.